This episode of the Blerd Mob contains explicit language. While we want everyone to enjoy the show, sometimes we may say things that are not appropriate for all ages. So, in other words, Mom, Dad, Granny, we cussing. Discretion is advised.
King G, Grow Site, ENT. Rock with it, rock with it, rock with it, rock with it. Let me pop my shit. Let me pop my shit. Hands up.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Blerd Mob. I am your host, Phthp. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get updates from the mob. Today, we're going to be talking about The Eternals, and we're going to be doing a movie review. So The Eternals dropped Friday, November 5th, 2021. So, going to go ahead and say, spoiler warning. So if you have not seen the movie, I'm going to need you to put that thing in reverse and come back later. Otherwise, you're going to hear the whole movie at this point. So joining the mob today, we got a full house again. The Gurren Otaku boys are back. Ace and Mcmillian and Ryun and Ralph are back as well. So how we're going to do this, guys, we're going to start with, did the movie impress us, and give it a rating out of 10. We're going to go into what we didn't like about the movie. We're going to go into what we did like about the movie, and then I have a couple of discussion questions that I want to get into relating to the Eternals.
Oh, we rating it from the jump?
I mean, we did that for Venom the last time.
Oh, I thought we was gonna talk about it first. Ooh.
Nah, we about to get into it.
Yeah, no, that's us who do the rating at the end.
We about to get into it.
Shit.
So I wanted to start with the rating because I wanted to start with the rating, but the other reason why I wanted to start with the rating is because episode 5 we already pre-rated The Eternals. I gave it a 7. Ace gave it a 7 going towards an 8.
Okay.
Ryan gave it a 6 going towards a 7. Mcmillian gave it a 6 going towards a 7. And Ralph gave it a 7. So now we're about to see if our true rating after watching the movie matches up to what we decided last episode. So starting with me, did The Eternals impress me? Sure. I'm pretty much neutral for this movie. I would give it a 5 out of 10. So mine dropped from a 7 to a 5. And I would say 5. I did like the movie, but nothing really jumped out at me to really love this movie. I don't hate it. I would watch it again. So I'm just going to go that neutral 5. So, who wants to go next?
You reminded me of my old score, and I was pretty consistent. After me and Jay watched, I sure did give it like a 6.5. I honestly enjoyed the movie, but I guess later on, once we get into the discussion, but one point I wanted to make, as a movie, independently, as The Eternals, not as a movie within the MCU, I actually enjoyed it. I even have a favorite character out of it, and it was actually my expected favorite character, and I enjoyed it. It didn't just impress me like go above and beyond, but I enjoyed it. 6.5.
Kind of in that same boat.
I think mine went down from a 7 to around a 6.5, something like that. Now, as you guys are already saying, it's a movie. You know, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't just like it. Was just like, wow, this was just totally amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So yeah, 6.5.
Okay. I think. Okay. I was just gonna say that I think mine from the pre-review to now is basically still the same. This is like a high 5, solid 6, maybe. Not to get too much into it, but I enjoyed it. It's just there were things I felt that were missing that didn't grab me as much as I thought they would, and therefore I have to give it around a 6 because it's not it's not a story that necessarily you're not into, but it's more of like the constant. All the while I was watching it, I was like, I just feel like I'm missing something. I couldn't tell what it was, but the movie was enjoyable. The story was there. It's just, something felt like it was not
That wow
right.
factor.
Yeah.
Maybe it might have been that, but also I did, like I said, I'm not trying to get too much into it, but the characters also didn't really as much grab me all the way either. But we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah.
It kind of didn't give me that wow factor that Marvel normally does, but it is a start. So I was perfectly fine with it. I don't want to get too deep into it, so I'm just leave it at that.
All right. So we're pretty much in the average range for the movie, which I agree it wasn't bad, but I agree with Mcmillian. I felt like it was missing something that could have took it over the top. So it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I didn't leave the theater like with an impression. I was like, wow. Like it's different from how I felt when I watched Endgame, because I went back and watched Endgame like 3 times in the theater.
I mean, but that's in game though.
But I'm just saying though. I'm just saying, like, true, that might not be a fair comparison, but you know how certain movies that
Yeah.
you watch, and maybe you would go back to go see it again. Like, if we were doing a Shang-Chi review, I may have went back to the theater and watched it because I did thoroughly enjoyed it. It did have some wow factors, but this one is kind of that I'm gonna wait till it drops on Disney Plus or like DVD or something and watch it again.
Podcast
I feel
podcast
you.
master, can I ask you a question? The same one I asked Jay
What's
when we
up?
finished watching it. If this was not a Marvel movie, like if Eternals was its own independent IP and this was just a movie that you did not compare to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, would your rating be different? Would you have enjoyed it different? Would you have enjoyed it more or less if you didn't have that anticipation of how does this connect to the MCU? How does this evolve into the world? How does this connect to the lore? Like if this was completely independent, would your rating change?
I don't think so. Um, because I went into the movie theater expecting a different type of Marvel movie to begin with. So, in a sense, you could look at this like a movie outside. It does fit into the MCU, but you could look at it if it was outside of the MCU. But I think I still would have gave it the same rating.
Okay.
Just because this is a completely new thing. And when you ask that question, like movies that popped up in my head that kind of felt the vibe of how I was feeling about it is maybe like, and it's like Hunger Games or like the book series type movies,
Mm-hmm.
Divergent. It kind of felt like that to me.
It felt like an introduction movie to a saga.
Right. That's what it felt like. So I think I still would have gave it a 5 just because of execution alone, and not how, just not because it's a Marvel movie or where it's supposed to fit in into all of this.
Okay.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
to go into what we didn't like about the movie, my dislikes aren't like make or break things for me, but they were some things that as I was watching the movie, I kind of made a face at, because like maybe this could have been done a different way, or I wasn't really understanding the point of why this was happening. So the first thing was Icarus's betrayal. So we get towards like the end of the movie, and I can't remember who was talking to Icarus, but they were like, tell us what it might have been Kingo, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
he was
Kingo.
looking to Icarus to lead them and tell them what they should do about this celestial problem, and he's just like, I'm not who you think I am. And leading up to that, the only glimpse of he had subtle suspicion. I'm gonna put it like that. Like Cersei mentioned that one day Icarus just up and left her. And so in my head, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so why'd he leave her? And then for it to turn out like it was, I was like, there wasn't really anything that was giving away that he was like prime suspect number one. So when the plot twist happened, that he was the one that killed Ajax and he knew about the celestial thing and the deviants this whole time, I was like, okay, that's a plot twist, but it really didn't hit me as hard as I think the plot twist should have. Like, you just murdered. You're responsible for the murder of our leader. You knew about this, like, the whole time. But I didn't really feel the impact of his betrayal as I should have. It felt weird when it all came out. It kind of felt sudden. A bit too sudden for me. So
I see where you're coming from with that. Maybe it didn't hit you as hard because these are not necessarily new characters, but they was just being introduced inside the MCU, and so we just getting to know them more and stuff like that. So maybe that's why it didn't hit as hard. But I feel where you're coming from with that, though.
It could have been that, and it could have just been that I didn't really care for Icarus as a character either. So, well, looks like we lost Ralph. He'll be back. But it could have just been that I really didn't care for Icarus as a character. That when his betrayal hit, it didn't really... The hurt that the other characters felt, I didn't feel that hurt.
Correct.
I couldn't, I wasn't like, oh my god. I was just like, okay.
I think
I want to say what I feel like the reason you may feel that way is probably for my biggest dislike, but I'm gonna let you finish because my biggest dislike I feel like could have been a cause for that as well.
So the other thing was, so Cersei takes over as the leader of the Celestials over Ajax. But her being chosen, so this is the thing. This is what made the betrayal start to make sense, because when Ajax died, everybody started looking to Icarus to lead them. But it was Cersei that was chosen by Ajax to lead everybody. And for that to be part of the plot twist, they really didn't emphasize on it hard enough of why is Cersei the leader. It was like, okay, she's the leader. Whatever. Hey, Icarus, what do you want us to do? But they weren't really touching on... Well, I guess they touched on a little bit, but not hard enough of why was Cersei chosen and not Icarus, as they should have if this was going to be part of the plot twist. Because it comes out at the end when, he bursts, he puts a suit on, he bursts in, he starts attacking everybody, and then it was like, then they asked the question, why was Cersei chosen and not Icarus? And then it was like, you killed her. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, but I don't know. It's just like some of those pieces you could have touched on a little bit more if it was going to lead up. And that may just be another reason why I didn't find the betrayal convincing enough. Or it could just be one of those things where they try like a deception type thing, that you want us to see Icarus some type of way, and then, he's not who you think he is. But that switch, I didn't really feel it. My last thing, and it's not really a dislike because there are some things that I did like about it. It was soap opera-ish. It was like that soap opera type MCU movie that I thought it was going to be. It was more relationships and talking. Then they did have fight scenes, but it was more so, I guess, like the documentary thing that Kingo was doing. That's what it felt like. So we're going on a trip. Is what it felt like, instead of the action-packed MCU movies that we usually get. So I was expecting that going in, but I just thought it would have been a bit more.
Yeah.
But like I said, these aren't make or break things for me. It was just some stuff that I was like, oh, okay, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
See,
If
I had one dislike, like one solid dislike, or rather critique. And what it was is that this movie chose to do a character ensemble cast, and they introduced essentially how many of them was it? 5 or 6?
10.
It was like 10.
It
It's
was 10.
10.
It's
It's 10 for
Yeah,
10.
me.
it's
I
10.
see, and that's hard. That's very difficult. If you've ever read a character ensemble book, watched the series, one of my one of my favorite movie slash series that did a character ensemble is The Magicians. And the hard part about doing a character ensemble is already hard making each character independent of one another, giving them their own personality, their own wants, their own desires, their own motivations, their own intentions, and then making all of those prevalent into one series slash, in this case, one movie. Each character, I feel like, did have their own personality. I feel like each character, if giving way more time, a few more movies, everybody could find one they liked. I actually saw the ones that I thought I would like. However, when you throw all of these characters into one movie, the plot is solid, but no one character got enough time for you to build a strong relationship with or to even understand the dynamics. Like we saw the dynamic with Cersei and Icarus and how they were together and then they separated. She fell in love with a human, quote unquote fell in love. We see Sprite like having a crush on him. We see the other characters, the fast girl and the dude who could control minds. I can't remember all of their names. We didn't
Makari
get
and
no
Druid.
attention to that for it to be a soap opera type of movie. It was hard to focus on all of the characters enough for you to build that bond. And I feel like that's why I said I feel like my one issue kind of connects to yours, Portia, because when you have this character ensemble cast, it's difficult for me to say, this plot twist hit hard. How could he betray her? Why would they all look to him as the leader? Why don't they understand Ajax's opinion on picking Cersei? It's hard for you to get that impact because you just got introduced to a whole cast of characters, and each of them honestly got a fair amount of screen time. And I feel like that's not really a dislike, but that's why this movie, like in the beginning where we said it felt like an introduction movie, I feel like Eternals 2, Eternals 3, depending on how many come out, can be very, very enjoyable. Because this did set a pretty solid foundation, but it's hard to execute on building a character ensemble. It's really hard to execute that, especially when if you're not like the Avengers, where each character in the freaking Avengers had their own independent solo film, and then a few Avengers films prior to that, you can't do that. Like, yeah, Avengers was great, but look at how much preparation the Avengers had before becoming the Avengers character ensemble movie. It had a lot. It had a
Yeah.
lot backing that, which is why it was so
That's
good.
true.
The Eternals came
Yeah.
from the jump with all these characters fall in love with them, and I feel like for what they did, that's why I said I'd give it a 6.5. It was good, but that's an ambitious task. It was really
I think
difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that. And as you were explaining that, I think that might have been my thing, that we're jumping, we're learning about all of these characters, and then you're trying to throw in this big plot twist. But because we've been jumping around, I can't really feel for the rest of the hurt for the rest of the characters. Like I know it's like it was fucked up, but I couldn't feel for them the way
Yeah.
that I think I should have.
Hmm.
Yeah, then touching on the point where how you mentioned that, every character got, only so much screen time or whatever. I think like the amount of screen time that Kingo and his valet have gotten was maybe a little bit too much.
It
Like
was
maybe they
comic
could have spent,
relief.
It
yeah, I
was.
mean, yeah, it was comic relief, but they also could have spent that time doing other things though. Though it was, funny here and there, I would give them that. But it's just that, some of that time they could have spent somewhere else as well though.
That's true.
I wouldn't disagree.
Mm.
But it was
50,
funny though, so I'll give them that.
I'm 50-50 on that.
That man pulled out 3. Y'all remember that scene? He pulled out 3
Three
cameras.
cameras. Trace.
He said, "You got another one?"
Gotta come prepared. My
He
man
was
said, "You stay
dedicated.
ready, you ain't gotta get ready."
He was
Right.
dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hey,
I want to go next.
yeah. Look like they thinking, I guess I'll slide in next.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of my dislikes that I had with the movie is I wasn't expecting to see a lot of action scenes in this movie, but the action scenes that I did expect to see in this movie, I expected them to be, I expected them to be great because, as you mentioned before, Ryan, this is another ensemble type of movie, and as we know, from the Avengers and stuff like that, the action scenes in those movies were great, and so I'm just expecting this. The action scenes that I did get was not to the level I was expecting them to be until we got to the climax. Now, when we got to the climax, okay, this is it right here. I'm fucking with this. This is what I thought the whole movie should have been, just a little bit toned down, and until we got to the climax. Other than that, I think one thing I didn't like, somebody mentioned it earlier, the little romance between Jurek and Makari. It almost came like that came out of nowhere. Like, yeah, we saw that one scene with them at the bar back in Babylon. Now, I don't know if that was a bar, but we saw them at that one scene back in Babylon and whatnot, and they had that one interaction, but you couldn't really get too much just from that one interaction from Jurek and Makari. So it just kind of felt like that whole thing just came out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a thing now.
I guess if they would have gave their relationship a bit more time like they did Cersei and Icarus, maybe it would have made more sense.
Correct. Been a 3-hour movie
then. Correct. And then I guess the last thing that really I didn't vibe with is just, I guess, the villain of the movie.
Who was the villain? That's the question. Who was the villain?
Technically, the Celestial,
it's 10 of us. It's 10 of us.
Or was it the
but
deviant?
The villain is a group of 5 deviants, though. Like, come on now. And / Icarus.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
The villain.
Who is the villain?
The villain was the Celestial. What the fuck was his name? Ashram. Reshiram. Pokemon.
I guess they had levels. Like deviants are like.
Yeah, but then even with the deviants, so you mean to tell me it's a group of 10 of us, but we only fighting like 5 of these guys? Like, come on now.
Hey, they had the smoke for them boys.
And that one deviant came out looking like Ultron.
One of them started from the jump. One of them started healing themselves. They punched him, and he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna beat that."
Yeah, and I was also about to say, only. It seems like only 4 of the actual turtles have like fighting ability.
That too.
Yeah,
that too. I guess, but I mean,
I guess
I don't know, because like for all the stuff that Cersei could do, I felt like she was underused. Like she can literally change matter, but
some of the stuff
it was
she
almost
was like towards the end, she didn't know that she could do.
Well, correct. No, I'll give you that. But just like the very first scene we run into into the first deviant, right? It was like she couldn't do nothing, not even to protect herself, really.
Well, yeah, but I would give it this.
She can't change living matter, and also, but I will also agree that she probably. What's weird to me with Cersei's ability, I would feel like after a couple of thousand years, you would be more creative with it.
Thank you.
She could have been like the girl off of Invincible who had a similar ability.
But I want to
Adam Eve.
I guess
probably,
I guess to put in some factors. One, when we were getting the flashbacks to like them going through the ancient times, Cersei wasn't using her powers for like high battles,
fighting this
high
stuff,
intensity battles anyway. So, so then fast forwarding when this deviant shows up, she hasn't used her powers in years. Like she may might use it for like small stuff, but she hasn't used her powers in years. She hasn't fought in years.
Yeah.
So
she has. I forgot that they were
right
watching everything happen.
While I agree with Ace, I think it's I won't say unrealistic, but I would say that that's a very high expectation to have of her, based on the fact that they thought all the deviants were dead. They had no reason to fight. They had no reason to level up their powers to do that.
I feel where you're coming from. It's not necessarily about leveling up, though. It's just more about where Mcmillian was coming from. Just like, even if your powers even if you really didn't do that much fighting, I would figure that after all these years, you would have learned how to use your powers in some type of unique way.
But if she's not fighting, If she's not in that mentality that I have to keep fighting deviants and protecting the human race, then maybe she just didn't think about using my powers in like different types of ways.
I mean,
She
well, I
did
guess
make
that's
that
kind
tree
of like a
fall
cop
now,
out because their
Alex.
whole reason,
She did make that tree fall. Remember when she used her powers to like turn a piece of it to water, then made it fall on the deviant
Yeah,
and turned it into metal? That come on now,
yeah.
that was in the
I mean,
that
yeah,
was in the
but yeah,
moment.
I
That was
mean, that
kind of
was
creative.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But another thing, I think to the point, even though I'm the one that brought it up, to go against that, Cersei, when we saw them fighting throughout the past, they had their designated, you guys save people, we fight deviants.
Mm-hmm.
Gilgamesh, Cersei, well, it was Gilgamesh, Cersei,
Thena,
Icarus, and
Thena.
the fast one, I forget, and
Thena would be like the
Thena.
And
finisher, kind
Makari.
of.
That's the speedster.
Yeah, so those were like the we engage, everybody else like either heals or takes care of the other humans and tries to like work that out, right? So Cersei probably wouldn't even when they separated, probably would never even think to be like, oh, I need to start working on fighting because I've never had to do that technically. I've just had to be around when people were fighting or other stuff like that. Because she even when like a deviant was in her face, like around the beginning of the movie, she didn't even like really engage in it and fight it. Like it seemed like the most recent, when they were in the present, that was like the most recent attack. So I mean, that's a pretty good point that Portia brought up. I was thinking, I was like, I mean, if I had that ability, I'd play around with it. But then again, I'm not an Eternal. The way they wrote the Eternals, they don't even think like normal people do. So
I like how you brought up that they did split the groups. So because when the movie first started, we don't see all of them fighting the deviant. We only see all 10 of them show up when the fight is over. And she was on the side that came after the fight. So
or would be helping humans move around as the deviants came and attacked.
Yeah, like similar to how similar to that recent fight, she basically did what you would probably imagine she did in all past fights. She tried to put them all in a building, turning it into stone so it couldn't break as easily. She pretty much was just playing her role.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of like that aspect about them. Not each of them.
I guess
they're not their individual heroes, to be honest.
I guess the other thing is that she had to make something shake because they were shorthanded. They didn't have all 10.
That part. And then I guess the last thing I really didn't like was Thena killing the deviant, how she killed them. It was just like that's how like you caught him off guard.
I'm
but it was
so
just
glad
like
you brought that up. And you want to know what went through my head when I saw that scene? This was definitely Angelina Jolie saying, I don't want to die in this movie or I'm going to leave. And then Disney was like, okay, fine, okay. Because I was like, she definitely should have died.
Thena a bad
and she gonna do
bitch.
some shing, 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 shing. And I was like, okay, it's cool. Like, go ahead, Angelina Jolie. But I was like, that felt like an actor request. Like, I can't die in this movie.
That was my favorite character.
Like when I saw that, it was like, yeah, okay, you caught him off guard, but I just feel like that was kind of cheap though. But I was like, you know what, you gotta know, you
I
killed
feel like
him.
it was
you avenged Gilgamesh, so I'll let you ride.
I feel like it was weird because she went into that trance. Like the whole movie, we discovered Thena has this disease. I can't remember the name of it.
The madness, eternal madness.
Oh, the madness.
It's not the exact name.
No, it's not what it's called.
It's not the exact name, but it's madness.
Can we just call it PTSD?
Mad something.
Maddening, right? The maddening. I want to say
that ain't
that's not.
If we're going to dip into that, I wish they expanded on that. Because was it that she went crazy? Or was it that she started to retain the memories?
It sounded like that it was something messed up with her programming and that she was getting glimpses of what happened.
It felt like
so basically what it is an Eternal lives so long
that's what it felt like.
that they just gain all those memories and stuff, and after a while all the memories are too much for their brain and they start going mad.
But
I thought they erased their memories after their mission.
Correct, but for whatever reason Thena's memories did not get erased though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like the Eternals after every mission technically are supposed to get their brains wiped. Something happened in Thena's last one where it didn't happen all the way, and so some of those memories started coming back, and that is what caused her think that she was on that last planet that was getting destroyed or whatever.
No, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. It was that something happened when they got set for this new mission on Earth that she didn't lose all of her memories from the past planet. That's what I was saying.
And what I was saying is why I wish they expanded on that, because if she retained some of her memories, maybe that's part of the reason why she was trying to fight them MFers, because she's sitting here like, no, this is what's going to happen, but she wasn't able to express it. I wish they expanded upon that, because I wanted to see why, when some of those old memories came back, was she trying to fight the rest of them? Because they played her off like she was just crazy.
I mean, we figured it out though.
I mean, we did, but it's like,
know why.
That's why I wish there was an answer from her, like, why did she specifically attack them? And she was like,
she wouldn't know. She wouldn't know.
Yeah.
The only person who would know was Asham.
Ajax.
Yeah.
Or Ajax would know.
Or Ajax, yeah.
But the only reason I brought up her condition is because throughout the movie, when her eyes go white and she does go into that trance, it's basically like she's lost all sense of self. And it was always Gilgamesh or somebody else who had to bring her back to reality. And I thought that scene was weird is because she was in the trance when old dude had picked her up. And maybe she broke free because he was disguising himself as Gilgamesh. But I just don't feel like so. This whole time, you yourself could have broke out of this trance, but you wait until we fight this big deviant to break out.
Now, I don't want to say this is also a part of it, but they did at the end of the movie. They were like, "Oh yeah, the emergence also increases our powers or abilities or stuff like that." So I don't know if that helps with it at all. But I feel no. I'm not trying to make any excuse. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if that played into it. It possibly could have. Even if that is the case, though, I do agree that was somewhat of a cheap moment because I felt like that could have been done better.
I guess
if that's what they wanted.
I guess I would disagree with that statement because unless like their physical, like unless their programming and their powers are like one and the same,
intertwined,
right? I don't understand how just because I have a power boost, I can break out of my memory.
No, I mean, like I said, it's a very lazy wraparound. Yeah, very lazy. That's why I was like, even if that is the case, I would still be like, this is cheap.
And that's what it felt like to me.
I do agree that moment felt somewhat like we don't know how to resolve this, but we know we want this character to continue somehow.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Like I don't know. They could have had Mockery come and save her or some shit. I don't know. Yeah. But that movie just felt a little cheap to me. But other than that, that's all I had for my dislikes.
All
right. Okay. I guess I'll go with mine. It's weird because this movie, like I said, like a lot of the stuff about this movie, I actually didn't dislike. It's just more felt like it was lacking something. I felt like the stuff that it was lacking was the emphasis on the relationships of these people and why it seemed to matter as a whole in regards to everything that was happening. Like, I knew Ajax was basically Team Mom, but we barely got to spend time with what the ramifications, like why was she Team Mom, but why, like what that all caused. Like one thing I know a lot of people mentioned, like with Icarus's betrayal didn't make sense. I actually didn't mind his thing because the whole time they were showing it like he was unfeeling. Like the first thing I noticed when he came back is like everybody else here has like human like emotions or is doing human basically things, and you are still acting like I am Mr. Robot type of quality. So it really didn't surprise me when it was like, oh, I betrayed our mom, because I was like, well, I mean, yeah, you kind of acting sociopathic. It kind of makes sense, but like the ties that bind them felt kind of shaky in the first place, because especially after they were like, oh, everybody else go somewhere except like Gilgamesh and Athena, y'all stay together. Like everything else kind of felt like I don't know when they all came back, I felt like it gelled way too well. And normally people who haven't seen each other for years or whatever don't normally like get back together like that, even if they are family. And that was something I was like, I felt like there should be a little bit more discourse or some type of thing. Like certain people should have been more selfish or not as along with it. And then also certain things felt like they were resolved too fast, like how they were like, I can't remember his name, but the inventor Eternal.
Fastos.
Fastos was like, oh, they after World War II, Fastos gave up on humanity. And then the next time we see him, immediately, almost like the next scene after, I believe in humanity again because I have a family and a son. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's cool, but you legit just told me, the audience member, that he did not care, and then you're going to immediately 180 that.
But he told you that during World War II, though.
I get how many years has passed, but I was like, I would have it's kind of like what Ryan said. It's so many people.
Yeah,
it's like you can't give me something and then rip it away immediately.
Right.
I feel you.
I agree.
Like,
I agree. I guess the other thing I wanted to touch on was how they jailed back so easily, but because they were just like, what's that Rick and Morty when they were gathering people to do that heist, and it was like, oh, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yes,
that's what it felt like. Like they were just going around the world grabbing people. Like, I haven't seen you in forever. Oh, we finna fight? Okay, let me go get my bag.
I think really the main reason why they did it wasn't as much like tension or anything like to come back was because Ajax was dead. I think that was really the catalyst. Like, okay, since Ajax is dead, I guess I'll come back with you guys. Like the only one we really saw give tension was Druid.
Yeah,
like even when he found out that Ajax was dead and everything, he still wasn't really having it.
But the other thing I wanted to bring up is when they did split, it wasn't like we're breaking up the band type split. The only person who really had issues, like you said, was Druid. But everybody else, when Ajax was like, okay, you guys, you go out and do your thing, everybody just left. Nobody had beef with anybody. So I was like, okay, maybe they're just gelling back up so quickly because they didn't really break up because they had an issue with each other. They just broke up because Ajax told them to go and do your own thing.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not disqualified in that. I'm just saying, like, I just feel like after 7,000 years, right, people become different types of people. But it seems like everyone was remotely basically the same person, even though in their stories they said they drastically.
Do you think it was like a sense
change.
of duty?
Correct.
Do you think it was like a sense of duty type thing?
Somewhat, because I thought it was like one thing I also thought was weird that Druid's whole thing was like, we are just letting them kill each other, and then World War II happens, and I'm like, so Druid didn't do nothing during that time. He didn't do nothing during slavery, even though back in Babylonia he was like, we can't let them do this, and I'm like, so where were you? In America,
he was in the Amazon with his people.
He was chilling.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're
watching over his 20 generations.
But I'm saying, like, but I'm saying, like, he was so dismayed or pissed off at the moment in Babylonia where they were like attacking each other, and I was just like, I can't believe that this character would legit just stay in a forest and try and not attempt.
Well, I guess that also
during major conflicts.
I guess that also goes back to the point where he was saying that I could have took over all the humans on this world, but I didn't because humans without their flaws, they're not humans anymore. So that could have been a reason why he did decide to not interfere like he really wanted to.
That's
and just chill in the Amazon with his
because
people.
think of where what time period Babylon was, and then how far ahead World War II is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could have had a change of heart, and that's why he didn't get involved.
Also, it was a lot less people
like I said,
too. Like, it wasn't just billions and billions of people on the earth at that time compared to thousands years later.
I mean, I don't think. I'm just saying, like, I think it goes back kind of to Ryan's point. Like, there's so many people in this movie that have such different drastic change in life and stuff like that. I feel like we needed at least to get a little bit more time with some of them, their motivations, everything. Because I feel like the only character I had a clear plot line through was Cersei. Like, the whole way. Like, I understood,
think it's because they were just trying to make her, because she was going to be the replacement.
It was Cersei in the Eternals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had to give her something of why do you deserve to be the leader of the Eternals? They had to give us something if that was the role that she was going to take on.
And then I guess somewhat also to how, like, for instance, Ryan asked me this question, do I feel like if I had taken this movie out of, like, the MCU mindset, like, how I feel like this is going to impact the rest. Another thing was, like, and maybe this is my problem with it and why I rate it so low, but it's kind of hard to separate it from it when I know it exists in the universe. So I'm just like, all right, if at the end of this movie this whole team dies, would I care? I was like, I probably no. None of the characters stood out and was like, "Mate, I love you." I like none of them. I mean, granted, Ryan's probably gonna be like, "But
I
Angelina
did like
Jolie,
Thena.
though."
I did.
Not but Annalise Jolie.
but that's one of your favorite actors. Like if they were like if one of the Eternals was Donald Glover, I'd probably be already attached to him because that's one of my favorite like actors, comedians, and stuff like that. Like I'm a huge fan of his. But at the same time, it like that I would have a hard time separating the fact that like you guys have to mean something because one, like the implications of who you work for is ridiculous in terms of all of this, and then two, like they made a movie about you, which means you're gonna have implications further. But the thing is, like, if this movie ended with you got all sacrificing yourself to stop this giant being, I don't know if I'd care about like the loss. Is my thing. Like not that like probably the major thing of why I gave it a 6, and I'm even saying like it could or a 5.5. Like I'm in between that is because none of the characters made me care about them. I didn't care if Cersei made it back to Jon Snow. I know that's not. I know that's not the character. I know that's not
I wanted to see more of
his
Jon
name
Snow
in this movie. I know that's not his name in this movie, but
duh. You had to kill that man like that.
Hey, but he finna go back in Jon Snow mode anyway. He finna pick up that
He got a
yeah,
whole
that's
sword
kinda-
again.
There he is.
it's kind of crazy. But
the King of the North
like,
is back.
On
The
me.
King of the North.
but that's probably like my thing. I wasn't even because I didn't go into this movie with the expectation of it being actiony because I already figured like you got a 10 people cast. You have to try and make me care about some of these people before y'all even throw hands. And I was like, okay, this is mostly probably gonna be like a character story.
Ain't no emotions behind the hands being thrown.
No, yeah, there's no because the villain was copy paste alien that can somehow absorb your powers, which I really felt like they should have touched on a little bit more. But
stick him in the neck. Stick him in the neck.
Yeah, and then it was like halfway through, the real villain is Icarus, and then halfway through, and then after that, it was like, no, the real villain is Escharum, and then I was like, okay, who?
Exactly.
What? Why?
Exactly.
It was just too much at once though. Like that's the thing. Like in this movie, if they could have divided the cast by 2, I think it would have been a better impact for the characters. But really more than that.
I guess they tried to do that by killing, Ajax off at the beginning, but it was still
too many folks.
Yeah.
Also something I feel like that somewhat ruined the movie. The Star Wars text crawl at the beginning. They were like, everything was cool until Ajax stopped believing in Atrium. I was like, why would you tell me that before we get to see it on screen?
You know what's crazy?
I'm glad you brought that up because they
portion.
didn't even touch on that though. Because they were saying that everybody was cool until this one mission with Ajax. And I was like, okay, are they gonna show us the mission?
I thought for a second I thought this was the mission.
Maybe technically this was the mission.
That's why I was like,
okay, yeah.
Why would you? That's why I had the thing by the end of this movie when they finally revealed that she like was killed and everything. I was like, why would you tell me if it's central to the plot? Why would you tell me that in the text crawl?
Beforehand? Yeah, at the very beginning.
Because I was like, when it happened, I was like, okay, Star Wars text crawl. Okay, are we getting background on a previous mission? And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, the way I was saying was that text crawl describing this mission?
I wasn't even paying attention.
Because if so, that kind of
I guess that's
took away the tension. So
I agree with you, Mcmillian. I think that confused me. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I was thinking that because we were getting flashbacks in the movies, that one of these flashbacks was going to be something that related to the text crawl at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you've connected, and the whole mission, I didn't make that connection. I completely forgot about the text crawl, but I thought it was going to be something that they were going to touch on in the movie that related to it.
Yeah, so I mean, like my dislikes aren't even necessarily like the character. It's just more like somewhat Ryan touched on. Like that, I feel like they didn't give they gave people enough time to establish their characters, but not enough time to have them have weight on. I feel like the audience. And some of the action and stuff felt contrived, especially when you were like, we're switching the villain every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
and then the text crawl thing. I just felt like there was somewhat of a mess on like what message they were trying to send in terms of like what was important and what wasn't. And I feel like that kind of dropped the movie down in terms of like my connection to the characters and how I feel like this will all impact the world. Like there could be great things that come from the Eternals movie. I don't doubt that, because I feel like the stuff they've established is huge. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I have to ask myself: did this movie make me care about the Eternals characters enough to like be like, oh, this one's my favorite or something like that? No. I mean, I hope to see them again because I want them to expand upon the stuff that they've shown us. But it's not because I want to see the character. It's not because I'm like, oh, I like that character or anything like that, which I think is a letdown. Because with the Avengers, I had my favorites. I had my people I wanted to see do more stuff, and this time I don't. And I think that's pretty bad for a team, movie.
And it could be what Ron was saying, like, we cared so much about the Avengers because we got to spend a significant amount of time learning about each one of them before they were all meshed together in one movie.
Correct.
So
I would agree.
Let's move into what we did. Like, shoot, I am so sorry.
I have not been
It's
able to
Ralph. I'm sorry, Ralph. You've been dropping in and out of the call.
Hey, Ralph. If Ashram got to take you out, just let us know. Is the emergency happening today?
Ralph knows something.
That's why they keep dropping me out the call. They don't want me to say anything.
What Celestial do you work for?
So you an Eternal Ralph?
Listen. I don't know. I can't say. They write my checks.
Not they write your checks. Main Celestial's not even. I mean, Eternal's not even getting paid.
I am special, okay. But I would say the things that I did not like about the movie. Number one would definitely have to be Makari and Druig's relationship. It kind of just popped out of thin air. Like, where did that happen? When did that even take place?
So, not to interrupt you, it's just so interesting that all y'all that majority of the people here brought that up, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, I didn't care when that happened. I was just like, okay, cool.
I was like, they together, okay.
Like,
but I don't know. I think maybe that speaks to how much I didn't care about the characters. I don't know, but I'm sorry.
That could be why, because I was trying to find reason and give Marvel a chance to, explain all the characters and, give them a little bit of background. I feel like they did decent with everybody's character, giving them background and, learning about each and every one of them within the 2 hours and 28 minutes that they had or something like that. I feel like they did decent. They could have done better, said then it would have been pretty much a part 2 kind of movie, So Makari Druig's relationship that came out of nowhere. The love lust of Sprite wanting to be with Icarus. I was like that
So that
I
feel you.
They should have gave that more time too.
I feel you.
That did throw me off.
Specifically, I will say
that was like
they should have gave more time too.
I'm laughing because in episode 5, Ralph said he was looking forward to Sprite,
and that threw me off. I was like, where does this happen? When did this happen?
And she got a crush.
Right.
Ralph said you acting brand new.
Right, you acting real brand new out here.
Why you thought today was the day?
And then that crush made you betray everybody, stab your friend and your love. What'd you call her? Your love enemy.
I guess the thing about it that I was like, okay, I can get with this is that when we look at Sprite, we see Sprite as a child.
Right.
Because of how her physical composition and the fact that she does have that trickster personality. But when we found out that she was in love with Icarus, it gave her a different layer of complexity that she is actually a grown woman, and the Celestials gave her this childlike body, and because of that, she can't live a normal life like the rest of them. Like the rest of them are just fitting in through time because they're fully developed men and women, and she is a child that. And Kingo even said it that when she asked Kingo why he left her, he was like, "Well, it gets weird when you're a child for 5 years and everybody can tell that you're not developing."
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it, I would say, was weird, but it made me see Sprite in a different way when that came out.
I would agree as well. That really just kind of threw me off though when they just introduced that love connection with Icarus.
Yeah, they probably.
I
Yeah,
feel
they need
like
to
I feel like they could have went a
tell what
different
they're
route with her character instead of, you know, it being her love for Icarus is which is why, she went with him to try to protect the celestial that was trying to be born. They could have went the route of giving her the role of just trying to protect the other Eternals. Cause she did do that when she, you know, did the whole magic thing of taking them away from the ship. They could have just went the route of she's just trying to protect her friends, you know, instead of it being
But
a
I guess
love
how would they
reason.
portray that right there at that moment,
Huh?
though? I said, how would they necessarily portray that right there at that moment, though, of her choosing to go with Icarus? If they did go that route
I
of,
think it,
Honestly,
I
I
think it
thought
made
she was going to
sense.
Yeah, I
betray
feel like it would
Icarus at
work
first.
though, because in other movies to where it's always that one person in a group that they see, okay, my friends need an improvisation, yeah, pretty much improv to go and think about what to do next instead of dealing with the problem that's like right in front of them. That's why I kind of feel
Mm-hmm.
like they could have went that route of going
I don't
because
know if
so you're
that would have
basically
fit
going
with her
like,
character though.
well, that as well.
yeah,
But basically, what you're saying is like she basically just, at this moment, I guess we might, if we're gonna, I'll deal with, I'll go with Icarus because I know at the end of the day, if we succeed, we're still gonna all be alive at the end of the day.
right.
So that way, okay, yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Um,
I did expect her to either betray Icarus or try to convince him, like, over time, like, oh, don't fight them, let's not do this. But when she stabbed Cersei,
I thought that too.
this bitch betrayed everybody. Like,
So
that was your
I feel
home.
like
yeah,
her siding made sense. Like even though the love reveal was weird, her siding made sense because everybody looked to Icarus to be the leader. So we have everybody
Mm-hmm.
looking at Icarus to be the leader, and then for Sprite on top of that, she's in love with him. So I mean, it's kind of like either I go with Icarus because if I go with him, I'm with Icarus,
That's my
or
future
I stay
man.
with these. That's what I'm saying. Like it's, I feel like it was her desire that made her go with Icarus instead of I should be fighting alongside the rest of my family. And it's going back into how she felt, like when she gave that whole spiel to Cersei, like when she stabbed her, and she was like, "I always envied you because you always fit in. You got to live and have romance and friends, and I can't stay in one place for too long because then it starts looking suspicious."
hmm
So
Mm-hmm.
I
I feel you.
she made an emotional choice instead of the rational choice of that we got to stop these celestials.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel that Cersei's character was decently developed, and through the movie, it kind of felt like I was watching Deku or somebody similar to like, oh, I have pretty much like a level one kind of power, and I have to grow into knowing the other powers. Pretty much how we watch. Not to go off on like too far of a tangent, but say Deku when he got one for all, he only knew that one power. But as we go on through Deku, we start to learn that he has more than one power, and he's learning that as we go. It kind of felt like we got that through Cersei as well, to where she only
Okay.
knew that she can only turn one thing into another. But when she found out that she can turn a deviant into another living matter, she was very surprised. And it was kind of that similar feeling with Deku, and I felt like we got that same build up. But it was too many times where she would just look so afraid in fights, or she would just stand there instead of getting into action. Like I kind of feel like she could have did a lot more in fights instead of just kind of
Yeah.
standing
That was
around and
one of
just
Ace's dislikes, and you may have dropped out
Yeah.
during that time,
yeah,
Ralph. But we did talk about the
roles everybody
power gap
played.
between
yeah.
Cersei.
I'm sorry, Ace.
Because you good. Because I'll just touch up on it real quick. Because one of the things they mentioned was there was like the Eternals were split into two groups, like one fighting group and the other were more support group.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm still on the fence that your whole mission was to go here and fight deviants. So even if you did have this sort of support role, you still had to have some sort of urgency in battles
Right.
to some degree.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Well, I
so
feel like she did in some degree, and maybe because of the fighting group, because of the powers that they had, she didn't have to use them a lot. Like she had that just in case.
Correct.
She had that just in case power,
Mhm.
like in case of emergencies. But
Pull this
Break
out.
glass.
and
but
also
everybody else, like everybody who was fighting on the front line had such high level powers that
Right.
Correct. Yeah, I feel you.
but also paying attention to what they mentioned in the movie, how he said he set up the Eternals to not evolve. What makes it interesting is that they got their powers, and even going through the flashbacks, it doesn't seem like their powers change much. For Cersei's to evolve, I guess this is like the part of me that actually enjoyed the movie and wants to see a second one and probably a third one. I do want to see if the rest of the characters, do their powers evolve, how do they change over time, and what can come of it. So
Mhm.
that's where I get from that.
Okay.
Like, Cersei, she should have used her powers to fight more. I feel like we might get that in part two or part three. I feel like their
I
powers might evolve a little bit.
she too
I
busy.
was about to say
She
part
too busy
two.
She hemmed up at the
playing
moment.
Judgment Day
Yeah.
to figure that out.
I was about to say I don't know in part two if we go get that.
Yeah.
Maybe part three.
Which
Maybe.
brings me to my I was right, but at what cost though?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah, you were. Which
Mhm.
I feel like this movie is all. That's all it was for, to
Yeah,
introduce the
it
Celestials.
almost
But who else out of the MCU would have had the rank enough to introduce them on that level? And it had to be the
I
Eternals.
feel you. I feel you.
So
Oh, well, never mind. I guess we'll get to that later. Because I was about to say if anyone remembers during the thing, I was worried about like Thanos' erasure, but we got that in the after credits. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
but let's talk about what we did like about the movie, because we spent a good time talking about what we didn't like. So let's get into what we did like about the movie. So some of the things I like the flashback scenes. I like finding out like how they interacted like in different points of time. I like the scene where they were in Babylon and Phastos creates
agree.
the engine. And
This-
Ajax is like, no, that's too advanced. They
don't need that right now.
What's
that
funny,
right
I knew
now.
exactly
My boy
what it
said,
was the
AJ
second I
was like, you
saw
got
it.
too
I was
much
like,
dip on
Jay,
your
that's the
chip.
steam engine, ain't it? And then he
Yeah,
said, look at my
and
creation.
I liked how they did the flashbacks, and I think through the flashbacks that's where we started to learn the most about the characters, instead of what we were learning about them in present day. So that was one thing that I liked, that the flashbacks did give more insight into the characters that they were introducing. The other thing that I like, and this is for Mcmillian and Ryan, can we talk about how Icarus was the Superman that Injustice needed?
Yes. Yes. I was in that movie. I
Icarus,
said, we got Superman
My
and
boy
the
did his own
Flash.
zoom in.
Icarus
My
was
only
the Superman that I wanted to see in Injustice. Maybe not like so robotic and separated from the situation at hand, but like
That
when it
that was
came
Injustice
down to
Superman.
the
Yeah.
business,
He was handling
Yeah.
business.
he was handling business. And then the other thing is that they gave him a weak point, the same way that Superman had a weak point in Injustice. They gave him, because at the end he couldn't kill Cersei. He couldn't cross that line. He crossed a couple. He crossed a couple lines, but he couldn't cross that line when it came to Cersei. But as I'm watching it, because they even put a joke in the movie where they go
Yeah.
visit Phastos, like, "You're Superman, I see you on TV," and I was like, I was making the connection the whole time. You have flight and you have laser beams coming at your eyes. Come on, dog. But
Exactly.
I don't know. That was a funny to me. I also like that at least one of them was dead when the movie started, and that they were dying along the way. Because it's like these Eternals that have these superpowers, but then like as they started, gathering the gang up, because I'm thinking like from the trailers that it's just gonna be all 10 of them, like in the present day, fighting to stop the end of the world. But the first person they go recruit is dead in the backyard, and it's like, all right.
Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. So I did like that. I guess it gave it like a darker twist on it. Like, you guys have been living for so long, but now we about to take y'all out. Like, that was like the point that it's getting real. So now it's not like a race against the clock for the emergence. It's like, now we got to stay alive. So, and then the other thing that I like, I guess we did talk about the relationships and that some of them did feel weird. I think the only relationship that I liked and felt for was the relationship between Gilgamesh and Thena.
There we go. Right there.
That felt very genuine to me, and I was sad when Gilgamesh died trying to protect her.
Hurt.
So, and I guess the weird thing about it is that Gilgamesh and Thena did not get as much screen time as Cersei and Icarus, but I felt for that relationship that they had, that connection and that bond that they had, to the point that I was upset that he died and that she lost her friend. So I would give them that at least that was one relationship that I could actually care about and leave with. Because I agree with Mcmillian. I didn't care about anybody else in this movie, honestly.
What's funny?
I'd probably say Gilgamesh was probably the one out of the characters. Gilgamesh showed the most heart.
Thena and Gilgamesh
A
are
lot
my
of the
two
times.
favorite characters, honestly. Like, if
Gilgamesh and Druid were the standouts for me for this movie.
Yeah, Gilgamesh and Druid, my favorites. Thena too, because I like. It's not that it's just Angelina Jolie. I like her like being this warrior, but now she feels ill-equipped. Like, her dealing with the fact that she feels ill-equipped, but she's been this tough warrior throughout time. So
if I had to say what I like, even though we didn't get a lot of it, I like that every character, like touching on how I gave my dislike and critiques, I like that every character's motivation made sense. I like that I can look at every character and see what type of personality traits they carried, and what they wanted out of the world, how they felt about being left on Earth, how some of them enjoyed being with humans, others had their own issues. I like that every character was indeed a unique character in the film. We just ain't get enough time to see him. But I did like the characters. Personally, I definitely could see myself liking Thena and Gilgamesh. And not just because it's Angelina Jolie, but time to touch on what you did, Portia. Thena was a badass. In comparison to Icarus, like, Icarus just looks like, yeah, Superman. But Thena, fighting, badass, her weapons can change. She was pretty dope. Gilgamesh, fun loving, big buff dude. He's Goku. Everybody gets along with him. He's funny. He can also cook. He ain't afraid to be in an apron. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed those two characters, and I like that every character felt like an individual. Aside from that, the world building was interesting. It was interesting, like, they traversed through time, and I do like in the movie that they asked the same question that everybody who came to that movie was asking. Why weren't y'all here to fight Thanos? I like that within the first 10 to 15 minutes of that movie, they definitely asked that. And I'm glad that we got a solid answer. Do I agree with the answer? Not really. I like that one character disagreed with that answer as well, which was Druig. I like that they touched on that. But I'm glad that they were upfront and said, okay, y'all motherfuckers let this man erase half the world and y'all ain't do nothing. We're not supposed to interfere with human issues. Okay, I disagree. I know one of y'all don't fuck with that, right? Okay, one of y'all don't. That makes sense. I like that they touched on that. I like that every character was actually an independently thought out character. CGIs were decent. I do like that, even though it's kind of weird how they executed it. I like that the deviants were like, "Hey, we can think, and y'all motherfuckers are killers. It's not us. Y'all been killing us. Y'all been killing my people." I wish we could have expanded upon that, but I did like that the deviants were like, "Hey, we're not the villains here. It's actually the Celestials." Now, was it hard to figure out who the actual antagonist was? Yes, but I did enjoy that little spin on things. That little spin was interesting for me, at least. Um, the powers, the powers weren't that unique, but I did like that there wasn't no one overpowered person. Even though we did have Superman, literally all he pretty much had was his flight and laser beams. He wasn't as strong as
Yeah.
Gilgamesh, so I did like that there was a little bit of a power balance. Nobody was just over the top, but that's about it for my likes. It was solid for me, at least.
Yeah. No, going back to one of your points where you was like, why didn't they fight Thanos? And they gave the reason. I feel I don't necessarily agree with that reason either, because I feel like Thanos was more than just a human conflict problem at that
Exactly.
point. But I mean, it is what it is, though.
Like Thanos
Yeah.
was out here destroying planets.
He was a galaxy-wide problem.
Yes.
I would
Yeah,
agree
and not
with
just
that.
this is a human conflict problem.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because if they just, because their whole thing was like, I love these people, I love the Earth, but
But you
Where
let
were
this
you?
man destroy not only
It's like,
half
where
of
were you?
them,
Like,
but half of the
like
universe
they
as
are in
well.
danger.
What's
They are
funny,
in
We are in
danger.
I expected
We
one
are
of them
in
to be like,
danger.
it made sense. Thanos was saving y'all, erasing half the Earth. Y'all were destroying Earth. He was helping y'all. I expected one of them to say something like that, but they didn't.
You know what would have been like a cool intro for the Eternals if one of them had shown up in either Infinity War or Endgame.
Ooh.
Like if you had to pick one of the 10 that like truly disagreed and was going to go against the grain and say, I'm not going to stand for this, I'm going to go fight alongside them, I think that would have been a really cool intro
The only
into
person who
the
would have done it
Eternals
was Druid based off them, though.
if at least one of them had shown up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel you. Okay, that's an interesting take.
I mean, I think it would have spoken more to the characters as well, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Thena doing something like that.
No.
You don't think
Yeah.
so?
That wouldn't be the one I
I mean-
chose.
You don't think so?
I mean, if she was in her right mind,
If
maybe.
she was in her
too
right
busy with a
mind,
lot of stuff.
she
Yeah.
show up and then she go into her little trance thing, and now we don't know
And
who to
now
fight.
everybody
Do we fight Thanos? Do we fight Thanos?
Hey, just point her to Thanos.
You pushing her that way?
Go that way. Go. Oh shit.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Was that all your likes, Ace?
Yeah.
That wasn't me. That was I had just butted in on one of
Oh, I was
Rise
doing my likes.
Okay.
topics. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I go?
Yes, Ralph.
Thank you. All right. So I would say one of my likes, and it's something maybe y'all would probably like as well, is Karan's character. I feel like Karan was really what would have been us if we would have been there with the Eternals at the time, kind of thing. We would have
Okay,
probably been
I
there
was probably-
recording
yeah.
too and trying to
I was
get
trying
all
to
the
see who you was talking
action.
about.
And
I would've tried to get my own
because I wasn't
superpower.
going with him. I wasn't going with him.
What you said you thought?
I'm for real though. Like, yes, I've been with you for years, but you talking about the end of the what?
The end of the who?
You know what? Just text me in the morning, check in, let me know you ate. But I'm gonna stay here.
At least I feel like it
God.
would have been nice to be around for the time that he was. You know?
We see what type of
I guess
person
what
you
you're
is.
saying, he's our, as you would
Audience
say, our
surrogate.
vehicle.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
right.
Like
So we were following their story through him.
right, and I feel like they did a good job with not excluding him, even though he was, not really a superhero, but he was still a part of it in a sense.
Correct.
So I like the fact that they did that.
No, he was a fun character.
He was.
Mhm.
I would have to say I really enjoyed Festus. Yeah, Festus or Fastus.
Fastos.
Fastos.
I really enjoyed Fastos. To me, he kind of seemed like the savior of the day by coming up with the bracelets and kind of being like,
Yes.
hey, I have
Yeah.
this plan and we're gonna go with this plan. I like the fact that they depended on Fastos to save the day kind of deal.
That's that black excellence.
Yes,
I'm gonna piggyback off
I
of that a little bit
enjoyed
because
it.
that was one of my likes
Yeah.
as well. Coming into the movie that Fastos was the only black returner there, so I was coming into the movie. Okay, Fastos, show me what you got, and so I'll have to agree with you.
Mhm.
I also
This
like
the
how they made him the intelligence of the group instead
Yes.
of the bronze.
Yeah.
Correct. I agree.
And Makari was very different. I enjoyed her. She was different from what I've learned in the comics. In the comics, it was a male. I didn't really learn
Yeah,
too
she's a
much
male in
about
the
him,
comics.
Mhm.
but in the movie, I feel like they chose the right person for Makari.
I feel like I
Even
could
though
see
I didn't
myself
like that
really
love
liking her
relationship,
character over
but
time.
huh?
I feel like I could really see myself liking her character over time. Like this movie didn't give me enough time to really like her, but I feel
hmm
like I really could see myself liking her character.
Right. And plus we're gonna get I feel like we're gonna get more of her in, probably a next Eternals movie because she's still on the ship with Thena and Druid anyway,
Mhm.
so we're gonna get more of
Mhm.
her. And I'm really excited to see what else they're gonna offer for her character. Another thing that oh I don't know. I wanna say that's it for right now. As far as like my well established likes, the movie was pretty good. So, but as far as character wise, Fastos, Makari, Sprite, even though she betrayed me in the movie.
Oh shit!
I feel
This
like
man is a
those
fool.
were pretty much like my top characters. Along with Gilgamesh, I did believe that Gilgamesh and Thena was something we missed out on that would have been a great story for us to learn. Not yeah, just to pick up on what Foop and Ryan said about that whole Angelina Jolie being Thena is more so we didn't learn about what they've been doing until all the other Eternals got there.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel
I
like
would say we really didn't know what they were doing then. They just been,
yeah,
as
Yeah,
far as we know, they just been in the house chilling. And
basically.
right.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh been make baking pies, and Thena been drawing pictures of celestials. That's pretty much all we
Yeah.
know.
Gilgamesh been
Hey,
making
but
beer
that
with his saliva. So
Here's the
Yeah.
thing.
he's a mess.
It looked like it probably tasted good too, though.
I mean,
can we get
I'm
him out
pretty
of
sure.
here?
I mean, they were drinking it until they found out it was his saliva.
Right.
I mean,
And
if
like,
that's all you got,
don't tell me
in
that it's
that desert, I'm
saliva.
pretty sure it was good.
Yeah.
Hey, but that bitch slap though that Gilgamesh did to that one deviant though.
That
Got him.
was
Knocked his
hilarious.
ass clean.
Mm-hmm.
That boy Gilgamesh was coming.
He
Yeah.
was coming. They had to take him out the G.
They had to
because
take him out. They had to.
They knew. You want to go next, Million, or
Yeah, I could do it.
okay?
So while this movie didn't have that many action scenes, I will say that the ones that they did had, I really enjoyed. Druid, for having no other ability than control people, showed his ass in that forest. Goddamn it.
It's doing
doing them flips and tricks over that deviant. It's like, let me show you, I got guns.
Then he had his little
I
army
got
in the
guns.
back waiting guard.
But see, Druid is a prime example of no, I wasn't on the battle team, but let me use my powers in some type of way to fight though.
No. But the difference between him and Cersei, if we're touching on that point, I think is the fact that he dedicated his life to take care of people afterwards, which means he probably did have to fight other humans at least
Maybe.
while protecting people and other stuff like that. But so that was one. Ralph mentioned Thanatos. I loved the way they ended up recruiting Thanatos. That was hilarious.
Y'all cannot say this man right. This
Fastos.
man's name right.
Fastos. Why keep saying
Festus? Thanatos?
I said Thanatos.
I could have sworn
I'm a
they were saying
Persona fan,
Festus in the
goddammit.
movie.
It's Fastos.
Fastos. It just sounds like
that man name
Just say
already.
fast toast real fast.
Fastos. The way they recruited Fastos, I thought was funny, and him when his conflict with him and the girl, I forget the fast one,
Makari.
Makari. There you go. Thank you.
Jesus Christ. Fastos and Makari's fight with Icarus on the beach was great. That was a really well done scene. Her constantly slamming old boy into the rocks.
She beat Icarus ass.
Using the kinetic force against him, like not even touching him, just running up and just like stopping real fast and using that to hit him. Him locking Fastos, taking his advantage and using that to lock Icarus down and taking away his powers. I was like, this is great. Even when he was like, oh, I've been waiting. Oh, you didn't know that I could stop you from doing the late. I've been waiting.
He had some pent up anger. I like that. He said, I
had
ain't really
box waiting for you.
He said, I really don't fuck with you like talking about. He had that pent up anger.
That was textbook black person waiting to beat you. I've been waiting.
This was Lex Luthor v Superman moment. Oh, I got something for you. I got something for you.
I've been waiting to whoop his ass.
I've been waiting for you to try me. I've been waiting.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that, and especially because with characters like Fastos, a lot of times they don't ever get a chance to shine, especially in combat. But he got his moment and he did not waste it, and I love
not at all.
I was just gonna say that the thing that I did love about that is that he thought it out. He thought it out. Like he stopped his strength, but then you remember that moment Icarus tried to shoot him with his laser beams and they didn't get far at all and they just went right back. I said, oh, he had it for you. He had to smoke.
He was ready. He was ready.
He was like, I've been been waiting to whoop me an ass. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
And that whole thing was great because another thing to touch on the Makari point even to go back a little bit to that, like we got introduced to her and like I think not 20 minutes before that fight happened and she showed out. Also another thing I really liked, Makari being mute.
Yep.
Like a disabled somewhat hero and that not ever coming up. They never like pay attention to it or make a point of like, oh, she can't talk. They just treat her as if she's like completely normal. I thought was really nice.
I enjoyed that too.
A great way to
I like the way it tied into her powers too.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great way to like illustrate just a hero being a person being a person and that a disability has nothing to do with like them at all. I thought that was great. And it didn't deter from her being a hero or anything like that. And I also another thing, I guess just my last one. The one reason I really like Druig is for a character that could legit just control people and not care about humanity because again he could just use them as fodder. He actually took the time. He actually was the most caring, or he showed to be the most caring when it came to humans. And it was like, I hate the fact that they're killing each other. I hate the fact that this is happening, and I would have loved to have tried and stopped Thanos, but I'm honor bound or duty bound, and I hated it. Like I thought that was like a really interesting point from a character who, if he was probably real, would have no qualms with human life because he could just control and get whatever he wants. I thought that was a really nice a drastic shift of character types we normally would see not giving a fuck at all. So.
Yeah, but who's to say he didn't try it? Like from the moment he
I mean,
left
true,
to,
we didn't. I mean,
maybe he tried it out and he just didn't find like any true enjoyment or
Because
true purpose in
he
it.
did say they wouldn't be humans if he did control them. So that made me think. So you did try this at one point, like you weren't just
I
sitting
mean,
there.
well, maybe, but I feel like when he, like, for instance, when he went against their leader, it just showed. I felt like it solidified the fact that like he actually views them as like important lives, important beings, and maybe that's why he felt like if I continuously controlled them, it'd be no point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, no. For all its faults, this movie had some very glowing gems in it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Well, for my likes, Mcmillian already touched up on one of them with Druid, but as far as my other ones though, you guys already know how I feel about the climaxes of a movie. If don't nothing else in the movie is good, I need the climax to be good. And Eternals did that for me. They popped off at the end. From when they first started, when Athena first started fighting Icarus, I was like, okay, there we go. We get some more action. Then when they go down, finally get to the beach, and Makari was whooping Icarus.
She was on him.
Ass.
She was on him.
She was on his ass.
She was like, I'm not gonna give you room to breathe.
Yeah, she was on his ass. And then, Mcmillian already touched upon it, but then the whole scene with Fastos and Icarus, I was like, yeah, okay, there we go.
They don't wait to whoop me in ass.
Yeah.
That whole scene was.
Yeah, the whole climax minus the Athena versus Deviant end part was, that's what I wanted right there. Y'all, they succeeded with that. Other than that, my other likes was, I would have to go back to where Portia was saying earlier. I did like the flashbacks and how, during most of the flashbacks is where we really saw to get to more about the Eternals and stuff like that. So I did like that as well. And I think that was mainly it because you guys already touched up on a few of my other likes as well. So yeah, that's about it right there.
Nice. I like that you brought up the Icarus versus Athena fight because I was like, it's about to go down.
Yeah,
it's about to go down in the spaceship.
Because she said a similar line that Fasto said. She was Icarus, like, you ain't never had to fight me before. And Athena was like, but I've been wanting to though.
And she was like, come get it. Come get it.
And that shows the beef that they had. Like, I think that made their relationships a little bit more realistic. Like, a lot of them were like, you the leader, but I could fuck you up. I really could.
It was
like, I want to test it. I want to test it.
But actually, no, I got one more. And so I know we already touched upon this and how Fook was saying how she didn't really feel the plot twist, but I felt like the plot twist, at least for me, came out of nowhere. And so it was, at least I welcomed it, at least, because I didn't really expect the plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not, I probably didn't like she was saying, didn't feel as much for it, but it was unexpected for me. So I like the factor of that.
I would agree. It was unexpected, but with it being unexpected and then me not really feeling anything afterwards is where my dislike came from.
Mm-hmm.
But moving away from the likes, I have two questions that I wanted to ask you guys before we end this. The first question is, so at the end of the movie, Cersei gives Sprite the opportunity to become human, to stop being an Eternal and become human, and Sprite accepts it. I want to know, if you were an Eternal and you were given the option to become human, would you take it?
Okay, question. Because I haven't answered, but it depends on the thing. Do I have Sprite's abilities?
That's yeah.
Okay.
Are we putting ourselves in Sprite's place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we just saying,
then
like,
yes,
Eternal?
If you were in Sprite's position, would
yes.
you?
If I was in Sprite's position, yes. I think because if I qualm it with everything that she experienced, I'd have to. 7,000 to be on Earth for 7,000 years and not be able to find love or have people accept you and all that other stuff would be terrible. Mm-hmm. Even if you could do cool tricks with your hands and trick people and all that other stuff, it would only carry you so far. And I don't think I think that would be a waste of not a waste of an existence, but it would be sad.
Who remembers that horror movie where it was the girl who I think it was called Orphan, and she basically had a disease that made her look like a little girl, and she went to one house and tried to kill the dude's wife.
I have no idea what
That was an old. That was an
I know
old
that
movie.
What does that have to do with the question?
That's who Sprite reminds me of, and that girl was a creep.
So Sprite reminds you of a psychopathic murderer.
That's just what I thought about when Jay was talking about it. It made me think about her. Because she was like, oh my gosh, I want to find love. And she fell in love with like an old dude, and she started killing folks because she ain't like him.
You always be coming off with some off the wall
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying.
That's just what it made me think about. That's what it made me think about.
But yeah, it's a no for me. It's a no for me. I'd go. Excuse me, no, it's a yeah. The question was, will we turn into human, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and you said yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. Being 12 for 7,000 years is not something I would want to do, in all honesty. And going back to the point of what Jay said, her powers can only be expressed to a certain limit. She loved to still tell stories and stuff. Even in the beginning of the movie, she was trying to portray a older woman to try to flirt with this guy. And when he went to go touch her hand, his hands just went straight through. And that showed, she can't take a full form of a full woman's body. She's still in child form, except she's just inside of that,
I mean, it was an
illusion.
Yeah, it was an illusion.
So it can only stretch so far. And that would really suck, just going to bars to, flirt with guys, and you can't have any real interactions,
Relation. Yeah.
What's so funny?
What the hell?
Ryan laughing.
about?
He picturing I know what he's doing. He was picturing her trying to have a relationship.
Exactly. Like don't touch me. Just like, let me just drink my drink and talk. Like, I was like, what the fuck?
I didn't know exactly what Ryan was laughing about.
Portia knows me.
This man is a fool.
I'm a visual.
As far as me, that's an interesting question. It would really just depend on if I have gotten to the point of where I'm fed up with not being able to, have relations, and then I have to really ask myself, am I willing to give up being an eternal to become a human just to live and grow for like maybe 60, 70 years, something like that? Would I give up a lifetime just for 70 years, I guess, of a good time? And probably not, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to find separate ways or something to entertain myself, but I don't think I would have did it.
Okay.
I would give up my powers without a doubt, because the way I interpret the question is immortality versus mortality. And I feel like immortality is the most lackluster, trash ass ability in the entire world, because just looking at Cersei and how she did find a human that she built a relationship with, and I'm assuming that even if they found other worlds, every living being had a limited lifespan. If I was an eternal, I'm living immortal, I find one human being that I just develop a bond with, fall in love with, all that other stuff. Hell yeah, I'll give up immortality. Because imagine just watching all these people you care about die over and over again. Like, forget, oh, they kill each other through war. They die of disease. They die from cancer. They die from accidents like car crashes. Immortality, I feel like people don't really touch on that enough. Immortality sucks. Like, that is a horrible ass ability in my perspective.
Yeah.
But I guess let me ask you this, because from Sprite's perspective, she doesn't, outside of the Eternals that she knows, she doesn't have any humans, mortals that she cares deeply about. And this was giving her the opportunity to do that.
And that's why it's even more so now. She has that opportunity. Plus, the dude she had a crush on ran into the sun and killed himself. So
I also, another thing, but the only thing I think that sucks in terms of like not of taking the opportunity to grow as a human is that she's lived for 7,000 years, and now she has to act like she's a normal kid and go to school and stuff like that. I don't think that's cool. I don't think that should be because my thing is like, What you gonna teach me in history that I don't know? I was there.
This what you signed up for, though.
You know, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, not
but I'm saying
necessarily
like that's
go
just
to
the crappy
school,
part of the
though.
deal.
Like she can
I
fall
mean,
in
that's
love now.
That's
you
a
know?
crappy part of the deal. But like she can, but I think the biggest thing about it is though is just like she can experience life, because the thing with the other Eternals, while they were immortal, she couldn't really experience life because everyone was like, "This is a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
You are restricted to the life of a 12-year-old." And I don't know if you remember being 12, Ace. It's not good to an extent.
I mean, I had a decent childhood. I don't know about you, Miguel.
I was in the trenches.
Oh man, Ellison, I can't agree with you on that one, big dog.
No, but I'm saying, well, I'm not even saying it though from like basically my child, but I'm saying like imagine it, I'm going off of what Folk gave us, and it's basically we have Sprite's existence. Sprite has no parents.
Mm-hmm.
Sprite's family is technically the Eternals, and by the end of this movie, they gone.
Yeah.
Like her, it's not great. Is what I'm saying. Like to be a 12-year-old, to look like a 12-year-old, and then have everything ripped from you, you were probably forced into the system. If that's what happened, I hope that's not what happened, but we won't know until later.
But you got
she went with Kingo though.
Kingo was gone.
No, but Kingo's gone.
But
they
you got
snatched him up.
No, he can't.
But the fact that she lived so long,
they snatched him up.
Yeah, that did happen. But when she did leave, though, she left with Kingo before he got snatched.
But also, let me clarify what I mean. Like 12-year-old existence, everyone's gonna look. Even though she's smart, she probably has more intelligence than most adult humans. She's gonna be looked down upon all the time.
Right.
People are gonna.
I wouldn't say most. I would probably say probably all. Because as you just mentioned, she lived for 7,000 years.
I mean, I was saying most because you had the outliers who are super like smart, like Tony Stark or other people like that.
But also taking into consideration, she's been alone for so long. The childhood part isn't even gonna last that long. The end goal is she wants to live the life as an adult and build relationships with people.
I'm just saying she's unfortunately
like that won't be long for her. Like that 6 years, 6 years she turned 18. That's 6 years of life going through school and shit. That's not gonna be hard for her. She's been living for 1,000 years.
I guess the other thing is that how do
I think that's the fact that she lives for 1,000 years is gonna make it hard. She has to deal with people constantly undermining her, thinking that she's lesser because of her age, and then also the fact that she's a woman too.
She's been through that,
but at the same time, she could also just fast forward it through it because she's so she's she got all this knowledge because she's been living for 7,000 years, so she could express way through that.
I would hope that's the case. I was just saying like it's kind of shitty to have lived so long and then immediately have to go into a place where everyone undermines you because of your age, and then also on top of that she's also got kind of a double negative because women are undermined, unfortunately, in society.
I had fun when I was 12 years old, Jay. I don't know. Yeah. I'm siding with Alex.
I don't like people undermining me just because I was younger, because that's unfortunately like that. When you're 12, until you hit like 20, even at 20, really, they still look at you like you ain't got shit to contribute because you haven't been through enough life. So your opinions don't matter. That was what I was saying, more so that.
Yeah.
I would think that would suck for someone who's lived for 7,000 years.
I was just going to say that does her growth acceleration even match that of a human? Like going from an eternal,
that's a good point. That's what I was
going from
an
eternal to a human. Is she even going to stay 12 that long, or is she just gonna like her growth turns into some weird thing that she wakes up and she has an 18-year-old body?
No, but I mean that would be a shitty deal if she was like if they turned her human, and could you imagine like within a week her age would catch up to what she
like her body should have turned to dust in her body.
That's what I was thinking.
80.
That's what I was thinking.
She just turned 80 like next week or something.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that might be something that they touch on in the second movie. Like, how is she dealing with everybody being gone? And the other thing that I brought up is that if she decides to or ever thinks about it, she could just go with Fasto's family, who knows that they're Eternals, and she would at least have some connection to them.
I didn't even. Oh my god!
So she could just go with them. Like if those are the only people that she had left. you know.
That little boy
But,
saw
yeah,
his daddy
but he
get
got
snatched
snatched
up
up
by
too,
Jesus.
though.
Not just-
Yeah,
but
he got snatched up too, though.
for my answer for the question, I'm with Ace. I'm gonna say no. I'm not turning into a human. One, and I would. The only reason I would say yes is because I don't want to get snatched up. That would be the only reason I say yes. So I wouldn't get snatched up with the rest of them. But I'm gonna have to go no. Like, I did like Sprite's powers, and me.
You know, a question: did she say they were going to lose her? Did they actually say when they turned human that she was going to lose her abilities?
Do humans have abilities?
Huh?
Do humans have abilities?
Yeah,
Meta-humans.
Marvel Cinematic
Meta-humans.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
but
could join
this is the Marvel
Avengers.
Cinematic
But-
Universe.
Could be an
Humans do
Avenger.
have abilities.
But that is a good question though. Did she lose her powers when she became human? And they don't show her using it afterwards, so we don't know if she still has them or not. But
yeah, that's actually that was like, you know what, in the Marvel universe, some humans do have powers, so
Right.
that's
I
very
can see
possible.
it from the side
I
that
guess.
immortality does get lonely. We've seen it with Wolverine, that he
Mhm.
got lonely with having immortality and outliving people and not being able to die. Like, even in the moments where he really wanted to die, he knew that he could not. So I see from the immortality purposes, like, why you would give it up. But me, I feel like I would just be chilling. Maybe I would
That
want to
part.
dip around in some romance, but I don't know. Given all the things that she can do and all of the things out in the world that I could do, I don't know.
You can't ride roller coasters.
What you mean I can't ride roller coasters?
You're not high enough.
If I illusion myself to be high enough, yes, I can ride the roller coaster.
Yeah.
There
I
you go.
guess-
Yeah.
There you go.
So
See?
you can get flung from the roller coaster.
Exactly. You gonna
Are you
slip out
talking
the seat.
about-
You gonna slip out the seat. Goddamn.
See, I was about to say you could.
Listen, so it
Shit,
goes
alright.
back to Ace's thing. What if I grow my powers where I can sit in the roller coaster seat? You know what I'm saying?
You're going. The seat
I'm just
gonna
saying,
come.
out of
The
all the
seat gonna
things-
come
out of all
down
the
and hit
things-
your neck, and when it should be on your stomach, like it's gonna come down.
And all the things y'all worried about.
Y'all
Y'all worried about
roller
me riding on
coaster.
a roller
That's
coaster?
what I'm saying.
The little things in life are the things that are going to get you.
One,
though.
I don't really fool with roller coasters like that, so case closed.
That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is I think with the whole thing with being immortal is like it's great for the first couple of years, but then eventually you realize
Okay,
how
but-
little you cannot do,
But to
especially
be-
if you are stuck in a small child's body.
I agree with you, but I'm gonna give up possibly my powers of being immortal to become a human.
I mean, your powers are
human.
your powers are just illusions, though.
A human, though.
You're
Like it'd be
human.
different
You're
if you were.
human.
If we over here acting like being a human is just the hot stuff now.
Let's not act like illusionists are just the bottom of the barrel type
There we go.
superpower.
She could go meet Iron Man and say, "Hey, I met your grandfather. Can I have an outfit?"
Iron Man
She
is
could do-
dead, so
Peppa Pig or whatever the fuck his girl name.
Not
She could
Peppa
come-
Pig.
You need to.
You need to leave. You need to leave.
She should go. She could go talk to her and be like, "I want an Iron Man suit. Do you know what I did? I saved Babylon."
I don't
she could
know.
do
I
something.
don't think I would. I don't think I would give up my powers. I don't.
It's
I mean,
it's enough for me,
I
dog.
don't know, and it's maybe just me being power hungry and just want to be a big eternal. Sure, but
If it was
I don't-
anything other than illusions, I'd agree. But it's just illusions.
But
It is just illusions, and it's
I
not.
don't have to use it. I just
And it's
get
not
to
like
live. I just get to
Sharingan.
live forever. I guess I feel where you guys are coming from by saying yes, but I think I would just be chilling.
I get you.
think I would just be
I mean,
chilling.
I get both of y'all. It's just for me, if it was like if you were like, oh, you get Cersei's powers, I'd be like, sure, yeah, cool.
I see.
I'll be
So
immortal.
I see what he power biased. I see.
Yeah, oh hell yeah.
Yes.
Just I ain't about to live at the age of 12
So
or
you
centuries
power
just
biased.
to make lights in the air or turn myself in, pretend I'm fucking 50 or some shit like that.
Like
no.
if I had super speed and could run all over the planet, yeah, it would take some contemplating to figure out if I want to get rid of my power. That's
But think about it though. You live long enough, you might figure out how to get some more powers.
That's what I'm saying. You have you.
Maybe?
I might.
I don't know,
advance.
but that's like. I mean, that's a big if.
It's a big if.
Yeah.
I mean,
They already said they
but
can't
I got
evolve.
enough
Especially
time
It's a
to make
big
that if come true, though.
I mean, she did too, and look what happened.
I'm just saying. I mean, look, I'm just glad I'm not the odd one out here by myself this time. It's all right though. So you know,
He
The
glad
Eternals for
he was
life.
glad it wasn't.
Alex said he got PTSD from one episode.
He said he glad he wasn't. It wasn't another 100% moment. You know.
But I guess Mcmillian did bring up a good point. Even if I got turned into a human and I still got to keep my powers, I might turn human if I get to keep my powers. That would be the one question I ask. I get to keep my powers. Nah, dog, you can't keep. Oh, never mind. No deal.
If I get to keep my powers, you know where I'm going? Straight to a New York man, straight to the New York suburbs on that bald man's manor, being like, "Hey, let me in. I want my X-Men suit. Let me in. Let me in."
Not
Wouldn't know
you
nothing about
going
him,
to
though.
Xavier.
Xavier going straight to Xavier. What's good, dog?
Me and when we was in the movie.
I'm turning to Mystique 2.0.
What's funny, when I was watching the movie, I was like, Jay, this is where they introduced the X-Men. Is Jon Snow finna say,
like,
I gotta tell you about my family. My real name is Logan or some shit.
You give up being Eternal just to go be an X-Man? Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
When you could have just did that regardless.
Now we're IP biased.
Yes.
I something wrong with the X-Men.
I've always been IP biased.
But I'm saying what he's saying he would have did is not like he couldn't have did that no way.
I mean, you're not wrong, probably, but yes.
I guess an unsuspecting X-Men recruit, because he show up and then this big Celestial show up. But
this is my dad.
That's my creator right there.
The last question I wanted to go into is that last time we talked about the Rotten Tomatoes score for the movie. So last week when I checked, it was 60%. The current Rotten Tomatoes score for Eternals is 48%.
Does it have a fan score yet?
78%. This is Google, folks. 78% of people on Google like this movie. Let me see if I can find an audience score.
If you go to the Rotten Tomatoes page, it should have it. I'm not sure if it might be too early because it just came out.
84% of the audience like the movie. But
okay, so it's fresh by audience.
So compared to us, our average has been like 5, 6, 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
It's technically by Rotten Tomatoes score. Most.
Well, I guess. Are you asking? Do we agree with the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think it's. I don't think.
When I hear 40%,
they put it lower than
slightly below average, and I don't feel like this movie was necessarily below average. You could say average,
and also they said it's.
But I say good average.
Also, this got a worse rating than Dark World, and
this was definitely better than Dark World.
Worse than Dark World.
I mean,
this was definitely better.
If you average the scores,
I don't think we can get no much more worse than Dark World. I would hope not. We don't ever reach Dark World level again.
I mean, if you average the scores, it comes out to be in 66. So I mean, that's around the ballpark of what we gave it. So
yeah.
I don't think it deserved the 48. Like,
yeah,
I may have rolled with them with the 60 when they gave them the 60.
Yeah.
I would have rolled with that, but 48?
No, 48 though. F.
Right.
Like,
I mean, a 60 is also what enough, ain't it?
It's a D.
It's a D.
That's a D.
D-.
Okay, it's almost.
I would have rolled with them with the D, but not a 48.
Not a failing grade. No.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
I don't think this movie
that
failed.
Yeah.
Because like when I look at ratings, like 40%, 4 out of 10, that's like below average. Like 5 is right in the middle of average. I gave it a 6.5. I definitely don't feel like this is necessarily below average. I've seen worse. We've seen worse movies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this falls definitely in the high average category.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's just them going in expecting the usual MCU movie, and that's not what they got, and now they're upset.
Yeah, I mean, but if you know anything about the MCU, you shouldn't necessarily went in expecting a regular MCU movie.
I don't. That's true.
Yeah.
Especially after seeing the trailers, you should know what at least is going to happen. Like,
Now, was it as hype as all these actors and everything was saying? Like, oh, Eternals is just gonna be the most amazing thing ever. Marvel ain't never did anything like this. No, hell no. But is it a 48? No, as well.
They do that to get people to go see it more. That's it.
Yeah, they hype it up to get.
Yeah, I mean, no, I feel you. I'm just saying.
I agree. I don't think it deserves a 48. If, like I said, if it would have stayed a 60, we would have been seeing eye to eye. I could have rocked with you with that one, but so this is one of the longest episodes that I've done. But I will say that the Eternals is like that. I'm not upset that we went like over what we usually do, because the Eternals was that big question mark movie.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a lot to talk about with this movie.
Right, that we were anticipating. Oh yeah, you got something.
Yeah. So, to talk about the after credits, a little bit. So I'm not going to touch on the Star Fox situation, but what?
I said I was right, but you continue.
You was right about
what?
The Celestials, but you continue.
Yeah, no, you
touch
were
on Star Fox, Jay, because that part was interesting when you told me that.
I mean, I don't know much about it other than that Star Fox is
his brother.
And which means the deviant syndrome thing for the Eternals might come into play later on in the next movie. Something that's interesting, or I might touch a little bit on it, is that it seems like they came from a different universe. So I don't know if that's our original Thanos' brother, or if that's the Thanos we brought over when they were like time.
You're talking about like how he entered with like the flashing lights and stuff. It was a little bit unorthodox.
Yeah, because his power. Because if you look up his powers, he's somewhat like Druid. He can, but instead of controlling people, he can play on people's emotions. Like he can control your emotional state and stuff like that. The theory I have though is about the voice that we heard. So if you go watch, if you watch this movie, the second after credit scene, if you stay long enough, which you should by now, because you know how Marvel roll.
We don't trust you if you didn't stay.
Our boy Jon Snow opens up a chest to a sword that says "Death is my reward" on it. Hinting to the fact that if you look up anything, he's going to be taking up the mantle of a character known as the Black Knight. Before the movie cuts out, though, John is the Kid Harington. I forget because I can't remember the character's name. It's like
I think it
starts with a Dane or something like that.
It's Dane something.
Okay, Dane. Well, Dane is like, "Whew, I'm ready for this," and a voice says, "Are you sure about that?" And it just cuts out.
Yep.
So a lot of people in the theater after I was done watching it were like, "Oh, is that Nick Fury?" It sounded somewhat like Nick Fury, and I was like, "No, that voice does sound familiar," but I was like, "I don't think it's a character in the series that we've heard yet." I was like, "Why does that voice sound familiar?" So I looked some stuff. I remember back when they announced Phase 4 that they introduced a very prolific actor that I happen to enjoy named Mahershala Ali.
Yep.
And that he
Here we go. Get into it.
So, for those that don't know, the Black Knight in Marvel has a blade called the Ebony Blade, and whoever wields the Ebony Blade, it possibly gains immortality while they wield it. That is why the sword had written on it, "Death is my reward," because people who normally pick up that sword eventually they fight until they die. Basically, like that, they view death as a reward. And being around so long, they have come in contact with monsters such as vampires. And if you know anything about Blade, he's the Daywalker. So we might, in the coming.
The theory is
movie,
that it was him. The theory is
so you're saying it was Blade.
The director
in the coming movie. In the coming movie, we may see a team up between Blade and the Black Knight.
Yep.
But also, as an X-Men fan, I have to also throw this out. The Black Knight is related to King Arthur, whose descendants, if you did not know, is Captain Britain, and Captain Britain is the brother of Psylocke. They are both mutants. So eventually, if this leads into Arthurian legend and stuff like that, and mixing it with that, we might be getting the X-Men soon.
Man, Marvel paid you good this weekend, didn't they? Marvel paid you good. Where my check at?
The Marvel
I just
checks
got that
coming in,
Sony check.
boy.
I need a Switch.
Yeah. But they did say, because the director, something, I can't remember, but the director was saying something about the voice was Blade, and that
Okay.
Mcmillian is correct that we may be getting a team up
So it's been
between
confirmed then.
Black Knight and Blade in the future.
Because I don't think he one thing I think one of the reasons we might be getting like a their crossover is because I don't think in this movie he was established enough to take up his own movie quite yet. So I think giving him by giving him a person to team up with, especially like someone as interesting as Blade, will help solidify him as a character, and later on we might be able to see him do stuff on his own, therefore stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think I was like, that's the actor's voice. I know that's the her stuff. But yeah, these are my theories. Marvel, please cut me the check, please.
I'm checking the mailbox before when it get here, Jay. I'm taking that. Taking that.
Yeah. So
well, let's see. Only time will tell if I'm correct.
I guess my other thing, and this may just be like way reaching, I feel like the next time we like see the Eternals or get some not existence, but some mention of the Eternals, for some reason I feel like it's gonna be the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, because now all of them are in space.
Yeah.
And
I
that
was thinking that too.
with Thanos' brother showing up, that if he is from this universe, does he know about Gamora and Nebula? Do they know about him? Has he been doing some dealings with Thanos, or
That's
a lot of a lot of questions come from this, because it's like, also, was Titan a planet that probably was going to be emerged, or what was it?
That too.
Mm.
So
if this is Thanos' brother and Thanos potentially was an Eternal, what was Titan and everything that had to do with that, you know?
Yep.
You wanted something with this one, fool. You wanted something with this one.
Trying to get that check, my boy. No, but the reason that I brought it up is because the movies that we know that are coming up for Phase 4, I don't see the Eternals fitting or the Celestials fitting in any of those movies.
The only one I would say besides Guardians would possibly be Love and Thunder, because of the fact that it deals with gods, and the Celestials are basically somewhat gods of the universe.
I was almost
and the character
say...
and the main villain of that movie is going to be a character named the God Killer. The main antagonist of that movie is someone called the God Killer. So that's the only other that's the only other movie I could even remotely think.
I was also gonna put out Captain Marvel too, based on how
that
they
as
do
well.
it. Because if she's been traveling through space, has she traveled to planets that have been who have undergone an emergency, or has she been somewhere where she's come face to face with the Celestial, or does she know they even exist?
That's a good point. That's another good point too.
So I think the next time that they'll show up is in the Outer World films, and we're not going to touch anymore on the Eternals or the Celestials' existence in all of the movies that are going to take place down on Earth.
Right.
Yeah, this is very tricky in terms of like what else this will lead into.
I'm finna tease
it's got
Ace.
a lot.
They gonna put him in Spider-Man, Ace.
Hey, just chill out.
They put everybody in
Spider-Man.
They gonna show up in Spider-Man.
Everybody in Spider-Man now. That's the new Avengers.
Hey, if these motherfuckers show up in Spider-Man for whatever reason, I'm just walking out.
There's gonna be a scene. There's gonna be a scene in Spider-Man where all the Peter Parkers are playing Smash Bros, and then Mario's gonna jump in Spider-Man.
But all right,
Chris Pratt gonna come through.
Oh, as Garfield, not even Mario. As Garfield.
Oh shit!
But let's go ahead and end this episode. Like I said, this is one of the longest episodes we've ever done, but good discussion, and I think the Eternals deserved it. It was that out of the box Marvel movie that we weren't necessarily sure about. It was a movie that we were anticipating to, as Ace predicted, to bring in the Celestials, how they were going to fit in with the MCU, and what are they going to be doing in the in the future. So if you stuck around for the whole almost 2 hours, thanks for listening to the discussion and coming on this journey with us. Make sure you follow us on social media. For Instagram, we are the Blerd Mob Pod. That's at TheBlerdMobPod. We are the Blerd Mob on Twitter and Facebook, as well as YouTube and TikTok. We're on TikTok too. But other than that, I want to thank you guys for returning for the follow-up episode for the Eternals and sticking through the whole 2 hours. But this is the mob checking out. Peace.
Night, everybody.
Peace.
Hands up if you loving where you at. Stand 10 toes down, shawty, ain't no looking mad. You can let them haters hate when they